Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. I'm so glad to see you all in the audience, viewers from all over the world. I see, let's see, Anne from Norway and Cheryl from Virginia. We have Lily from Argentina and Marco from Italy, Linda from Michigan. So thank you all for joining us from the corners of the world. It's so great to have an international crowd, especially for today's topic, where we'll be talking about genealogy travel. And for the occasion, I actually have my travel mug with me. This is my Hamburg travel mug that I received from a coworker when traveling. So we'll be talking about genealogy travel, very exciting topic. And we hope that, after a long time of not a lot of travel, we hope that everyone can start, if not traveling yet, at least start planning some travels in the near future. So we're really excited about today's topic. Before we get to that, I just want to let you know about a few things that we have going on at MyHeritage. So we are very excited to let you know about the MyHeritage Deep Nostalgia Challenge. And if you've been at a previous Facebook Live, we've been talking a lot about deep nostalgia. It is a very exciting feature that we recently released at MyHeritage, which allows you to take family photos and to animate the people in them. Oh, I see Carol says, love the mug. Thank you, Carol. I hope one day to have a larger collection of mugs from places all over the world, so hopefully with more travel. So back to Deep Nostalgia. Deep Nostalgia is a fantastic feature which allows you to animate family photos and the people inside the photos. It allows you to see them smiling, moving around, moving their head, and it just makes them seem like they're right in front of you, in front of your own, in front of your very eyes. So it's a really nice feature. It's been very moving for a lot of our users who have had a chance now to see photos animated for people that they didn't know perhaps, or that they weren't able to actually see in person or know in person. So it's been very meaningful for a lot of our users that we've received, hundreds, thousands of comments about how amazing it's been for them. So if you haven't yet, we encourage you to enter our Deep Nostalgia Challenge and to upload your photo that you've animated to your social media channels. It can be to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and to tag us, tag MyHeritage, and also to use the hashtag Deep Nostalgia Challenge. And tell us the story behind the photo, who's in the photo, why is it special to you, and you have a chance to win a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So the MyHeritage Complete Plan is the best plan we have to offer at MyHeritage. It'll give you access to 13 billion historical records, as well as unlimited access to all of our photo tools, which is MyHeritage in Color, the MyHeritage Photo Enhancer, Deep Nostalgia, and unlimited family tree size. So we'll be giving away 5 complete plans to the winners of the Deep Nostalgia Challenge. We've put a link in the comment section where you can hear a little bit more about the challenge and how you can enter if you haven't yet. So we hope to see all those entries from all of you. For today's session, we will be giving away, we have 2 giveaways, so very exciting. We have a MyHeritage DNA kit, as well as a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So we'll be giving away 2 prizes for today's session, at the end of today's session, after the questions. And because we're talking about travel, genealogy travel, we want to hear about your genealogy travel. So please let us know in the comments throughout today's session. Have you done a roots trip? Have you done a DNA trip where you've gone, followed ancestors, or gone to a place where you found that you have DNA, and gone to research your roots in a different country, in a different city? Let us know if you've taken a roots trip, if you've done genealogy travel, and what that meant for you, how you planned it, where it was. We want to hear the stories. So let us know in the comment section, and we'll be choosing 2 lucky winners at the end of today's session. One will receive a DNA kit, and one will receive a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So enough of all these intros. We've been talking for a long time, and we'd like to introduce now Daniel Horowitz, our expert genealogist at MyHeritage. I'm sure you all know him. He has spoken at numerous Facebook Lives. So let's bring him onto the screen to say hello. Here we go. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Esther. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Thank you
Very
for
happy to be
joining.
here with all of you.
We have a very, very international crowd, I see. So it'll be great to talk about travel today.
I see. A lot of places, which is actually the places I would love to go. Even if I don't have ancestors, they just sound very interesting.
Well, as genealogists, we can always find you some cousins in all those different countries.
And if not, I will be happy as well to just visit a cemetery and start taking pictures of the tombstones. So, yeah, that's how I spend my vacations.
Lovely. Well, we're really looking forward. So do you want to share your screen with us?
Yes, yes, I will do that right away. And again, this is a subject that really passions me. And this is definitely, as you were saying before, the best time to start because I personally, I'm thinking I'm here kind of breaking my personal record. I have spent already more than a year without traveling. And I used to travel to all these conferences and all these places, and I love that. But yeah, this year had to be a pause and a break. And now that spring starts, this is the time to start planning ahead. Because I can tell you in my multiple travels, if I learn something is to plan the trip. I'm not saying that you cannot be spontaneous and still get good results, but I'm not that kind of person. I really plan and try to have every base covered. And I brought you here a list of the main things that you should be start thinking of. And yes, probably towards the summer or even the fall, when probably travels will get a little bit more ready, especially in European countries, which is my ancestors. I'm pretty sure that if you're traveling within the United States or in other places, you will probably be able to travel easier. But let's go and start again from the very beginning. And my first recommendation is to start researching and find your correct ancestral towns. And the reason for that, and again, I learned this the hard way because I was sure I was going to the place of my ancestors. And when I arrived to the town and I started to do some research, well, I found out that in the same country, there were 2 places with the same name. And guess what? Yeah, I was in the wrong one. So it was a beautiful town, of course, and I visited the cemetery, of course, but I couldn't visit the ancestral place because my family was not from there. Now, the next thing you need to research is what is available. And I know I have the word over there, microfilms, and then yes, there are still some places that you will find information about the microfilms. But again, online sources, they will have a lot. And if you can get half of your things already from home, you will be more focused by the time you arrive to the place and you will know how to get those things that you are not able to get from home. Now, at the same time, and even if you have your correct town or city, you need to find out the correct archive because records were not necessarily kept in the archive that you thought. They could be sent to the National Archive or to the Regional Archive, and you need to know where those places are. Preferably contact people beforehand. And why not now? Ask them about the records they have, ask them about the limitations they have. They may not be able to receive you in any day of the week or any time that you would like. So make sure that they know you are going to visit them. Leave your contact details, sometime even if you leave them the details of your research, they can start that in a little bit in advance and have everything ready for you. Now, if you are already contacting the locals archives, also ask them for local guides or genealogists, organizations, translations. When I try to do these trips, I normally do it with two goals in mind. One is the genealogy goal, but another one is actually the tourist part. Okay, so why not finding out also what is around and what you want to see or what you can see besides the archive, the cemeteries, and the plains. Ask around, ask in Facebook groups, ask coworkers, relatives, and friends. Actually, a lot of my best tips for the countries I visit, I got them from our coworkers, which is not a surprise, knowing that MyHeritage has people working for us from all over the world. So whenever I needed to go to Germany, I contacted Sylvia. And whenever I needed to go to England, I also did a little bit of research with people like Aaron and others, Rafi coming from there. Esther, you gave me also a very good tip for Canada when I was over there in Ottawa. Now, I try to plan the route as best as I can. And in this trip that I'm showing you, this was to the northern part of Romania. I actually worked with a tourist guide. He was our chauffeur and tourist guide, both two in one. And I open Google Maps and I just plan the route and I use icons to set how we were going to do. And of course, he wanted to stop in the tourist places and I wanted to stop at my ancestral towns. And his complaint was always, well, you know, this is a little town, 10 houses, nothing to see here. I said, well, yeah, but there's my grandmother's house over there. Believe me, I'm going to find somebody or something to see there. And we reached an agreement and we planned this route and we actually had a lot of fun and he learned also a lot. He never did such a trip for a genealogy purposes. He does trips only for tourists. So you can always combine those two things together. Now, I also use the MyHeritage pedigree map because having all the places already put in my family tree, it was very easy just to pull the map of the right place. And this, for example, was in a case that I was traveling to New York and I have some relatives over there. I have some burials to visit over there. And it was much easier to plan it once I knew exactly the address and exactly the places and I could see them in a map. Now, then Google Maps also allows you right now, again, and from your home, to have a glimpse on how the houses or how the places look like. You may not get the most accurate street view. In this case, this was from 2012, and I did the trip, I think, in 2015 or 16. But things didn't change that much, and it really helps to have some visuals of what to expect when you arrive over there. And it was much easier to actually find the house of my grandmother, which is right there in the corner of the coming street that you see over there. And I could also compare the map with the stories of my grandmother about the town and knowing that I had the right place. Now, I use Google Maps also on my phone, and this is probably a lifesaver tip. So make sure that before you go to the place, you download the area of the map that you need. And Google Maps will allow you to store that on your phone and not need to use internet to see the different areas. So you have offline areas and you have different areas that you can put over there and search places and use it as your map or your ways without any problem. Now, we already said about the ancestral home place and cemeteries and archive that I normally visit, but also tourism and community places. Try to get a list of all the places that you can visit, that they are interesting in the area, not only in the exact place, but in the surroundings. You will find out that some of your relatives lived very close by from the others because people didn't travel that much. And in my case, I'm basing this mostly in European research. Most of the people stayed around the same areas and they only moved whenever there was a historical event. So you will need to learn also local history and know why and when people had to move from one place to the other. Now, I normally pack very light, especially if I go again to Europe or whenever I go to the United States and I need to do a lot of stops. So just make sure that you also pack light. Uh, some places will offer you laundry, so you will not need to take as many clothing with you. Just make sure you have a hat, you have a jacket, of course, the bottle of water you can refill in every place that you go, comfortable shoes, and also sunscreen because it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. If you are walking outside for long periods of time, you may get sunburn. Now, not only on the clothing and the accessories that you need, you also need to think on the electronics, and both we have today a lot of things we're carrying with us. I'm never leave home without my laptop, but also my phone, and sometimes I take also my camera as a backup. And you can never have enough juice or batteries and spare memory in order to have external drive to be able to back up all the photos and all the videos that you are taking in these travels. And if you are going to travel abroad, just remember that different places may have different electric powers. You need to know if you are in a place with 110 or 220, and if you go to a place where the voltage it's not the same, especially because like if you plug something 220 into an 110, chances are that will not work. If you have plugged some 110 into 220, you're going to have a party. Yeah, it's going to explode. So please be very careful. And then remember that your plugs may not be the same plugs that are used across the world. In the US, we may be used to two flats. In Europe, you may have two rounds or three rounds, or in England, you have a totally different three very thick square connectors. And if you buy it, this converters or adapters in your local place, you may find it much cheaper than if you need to buy it in the road. And of course, also USB chargers, because today almost everything also use a USB charger. Now, sometimes I had from problems with language and communications. Yes, I speak Spanish. Yes, I speak English. I also do Hebrew and understand a little bit of German. But actually, when I traveled to the Ukraine, I was in deep trouble because I have no idea, except probably for a few words in Ukrainian. So I had to contact over there a person that will help me translating and being my guide. And I actually find out very interesting that a lot of people in Ukraine, at least in the low southwest of the country, they were speaking a lot of German, so I could more or less manage with the people. But one of the tips that I have for you is build a list of possible words that you may need and print it out. And you have plenty of time if you're preparing now for that trip to be able to build this list. And why have it printed? Because you can also use it to point in the list the word that you want the other person to understand, because you may try to read it and you can write it like in phonetics as well, but not always people understand our accent. I will be the first one to say that most of the people have or may have problems with my weird accent. So bring your phone and use Google Translate, which also has an app, and it's very useful, especially, and this is actually my daughter's suggestion. He actually played in Romania when we were traveling, and I tried to take my family whenever I can. She was playing beautifully with a local girl just using Google Translate. She was talking to the phone. The Google Translate app actually translated and read it up loud for the girl. The other girl spoke in Romanian, and Google Translate spoke it in Spanish for my daughter. So it is very useful. And as I said, I tried to bring my relatives, but we also took one time a friend in one of our trips that was more knowledgeable of the language that they're talking in the country. Now, if you already have Google Translate, let me tell you this. Google Translate, especially in the mobile app, has a feature that will allow you to point the camera to any sign and translate it automatically for you. So this is also very useful when you are alone in the country. A few of the things that I normally do as soon as I arrive to the place. I try to get cash from the ATM, and that will save me the travel with the cash back from home. And it's the exchange rates are normally lower than the airports or the hotel. Also, I try to get a local SIM card, which is very inexpensive, and they will give me a lot of data and probably also time to speak with my family. Or if you have a good plan in your country, in the US, maybe you can have some roaming. And if it's not very expensive, rely on that. And also, in the UA, in the European community, there is free roaming, so it doesn't matter in which country you land, the SIM card will be good for all those countries. And if you go out the European Union, just make sure that the SIM card will work as well. Now, let me tell you about border crossing, especially in Europe. You need to really find out the procedure of how to cross the border. And let me tell you my story crossing from Romania to Ukraine. In this trip, I had actually to cross the border twice. The first time, I did it with the guide in the car, with the whole group, like any other tourist, and it took us 3 hours to cross the border. Why? Well, in English, you say bureaucracy. The passports may need to go, they need to be stamped, they need to come back, they need to check the car. At the end of the day, I had to cross again the border, but in this case, I walked. And it took me 5 minutes. Believe me, if I would know that in advance, I will not spend the 2 hours before sitting in the car and just waiting for the people to do all the paperwork. So find out what is the best way to cross the border. Maybe you can have a car or take a cab in the other side, in the other country, and that will save you a lot of time. Now, I like to book everything in advance. Sometimes it's a hotel, sometimes it's an Airbnb. And it all depends on the location and all depends on the different places where I go and how central the place is. Let me tell you, one time we contacted a hostel by Facebook. Okay, they had a Facebook page. We said that we're coming, and this is like a good couple of weeks before, and they said yes, not a problem. They didn't ask for a deposit, and I have to say I was scared because maybe when you do a reservation, normally you put a deposit, they take your credit card, but these people say no, no problem. You come, you get the room, you pay us when you're here. And I didn't believe it, like really. And like on the way, the day that we were supposed to arrive, we started to communicate and they said, listen, we're going to be there. We're going to arrive late. Don't give up our room. No, no, no worries. Everything is fine. And do all this through Facebook Messenger. And believe me, it was one of the best places we ever stayed. And this was also in Romania. And we had a lot of fun. We ended being very good friends of the people over there. And I'm just desperate for the next time I can jump into a plane and go visit them again. Now, moving around, it also depends where you are. You may have Uber, you may have Movit, you may have trains. I have, as I already said, rented a van with a chauffeur and translator and tourist guy all in one. And other places and other times, I just rent my car and I move around depending how I feel with the language or the country. When I was in Italy, for example, we went to see in Rome the place where my mother was born and where my grandparents were staying after the war as refugees. And I took a car and I drove around, and it was more convenient because I could just simply put the address and arrive to the place and find the right location that I wanted to visit. And, we're talking about, in this case, a funny story. By the way, I would love to hear and read about your stories of your travels for roots and genealogy. The place was supposed to be a hospital where my mother was born, and currently it was more like an elderly house. And we were a little bit strange that the place didn't look as I imagined for a hospital where they were delivering babies. And just when I went in and we asked the lady about some archive and some paperwork, and 50 years before, the lady said, well, after the remodeling, all that is gone and nobody knows what happened with that. And if it wasn't for that question and that conversation, we will never know that actually the building was remodeling. And the next question was, okay, so what was before? And she immediately said, oh, yes, this was a hospital for birth, delivering babies after the war and for the next 20 years. So that's how I found out the exact place where my mother came to this world. And again, we moved around very comfortable like that. Yeah, you have heard more than enough that I like to visit cemeteries. In fact, I don't know if you have heard this before, but it's true. I have a deal with my wife. In every trip that we take, we have one day for shopping mall and one day for cemetery. Well, it's actually the same day. She goes to the mall, I go to the cemetery. I take my camera, and no worries, I'm also taking all the credit cards. So she's having fun, I'm having fun, and we're all happy. But before you go into the plane and you spend all that money, why not go to Billion Graves? And while I am there, I'm actually using the app to take the pictures. But before that, I'm actually going into their website and I locate the cemetery and I see what areas of the cemetery were already photographed. Now, depending where you are going, and it doesn't matter if it's inside the US or in Europe or any other place, there may be cemeteries that are partially took, others that are more or less covered, others totally empty. And why not? If anyhow you are going to visit a cemetery, why not taking advantage of this app and take some pictures? And this will definitely help somebody. Now, what you're seeing here in the screen is actually the result of one of my trips to Vienna. My great grandfather happens to be buried in Vienna because after the war he was trying to go back home and he didn't survive. So he was buried in Vienna. And as you can guess, his burial is in the lower right corner of the image of the cemetery that you are looking right now. So anyhow, I had to go through the main gates and walk up till the end of the cemetery. So what I did is as I was walking along the path, I was taking pictures of all the tombstones that I had next to me. I managed to do about 2,000, 2,050 images back and forth because if I had to already walk till the very end of the cemetery, I had to go back. So I took a different path, and you can see over there how I went back and forth to visit my great grandfather. Now, uh, finally, and probably this is the part where you take the notes. Remember to do your homework. Research the places, research the names, try to contact those local people or the places where you want to go and make reservations, at least the minimum first or two places where you're going to go. Try to pack wisely, both in clothes and equipment. Check on the weather, check on the customs of the country and what normally people wear. Comfortable shoes, it's a must. You are going to walk a lot when you are in the road. And why not? Yes, consider a crowdsource project, billion graves, plaques, cemeteries. There are many, many places. Even if you are visiting an archive, why not taking a few extra digital pictures from the records, and probably you will either find your relative or other relatives over there, or you will be able to help other people. So I hope that you will take advantage of this spring time and you will start planning your trip to whatever place your ancestors are. Esther, I don't know if we have comments, we have questions, and again, I would love to hear people's stories about their travels.
Yes, so we received a lot of stories, some really, really great ones. Before we get to that, I just want to remind everyone, I see Carol said she had an important phone call. She missed a little bit and she wants to watch it again. So just to remind everyone that this Facebook Live will be available afterwards on the MyHeritage Facebook page under the video section. So you can rewatch it. You can also rewatch any of our old Facebook Lives. They are all available there. So make sure to check them out. If anyone has questions for Daniel, please put them in the comment section. It could be about his obsession with cemeteries or about just anything. So please put your questions in the comments, and we hope to get to some of them. I see that we have some really nice comments here. Diane says she's planning a trip to Freshwater, California. Her third great-grandfather is from the Wiyot tribe, and she said, how amazing is that? So that's really, really very nice. We have Clarissa. She said, I'm curious to go to Danzig, Poland. My Dutch cousin was there, and she noticed many shops named Gisa. Wouldn't it be nice to explore why? And that's her last name. So very nice. And we hope that you're able to explore that in the near future. Let's see, just so many nice stories of people planning trips or who have taken trips. A few trips that have been canceled I see here over the past year. As you said, Daniel, being grounded over the past year. Is this the longest time period that you haven't traveled in?
In the last 10 years, this is the first time that I spent more than 365 days without going into a plane. Yes, I'm about to get crazy, but I have to admit that I learned to take this time also to advance my research. I actually had a family trip to Ukraine planned for last year, and when we had to cancel, it's almost like just in time, because planning the trip, I managed to learn, and after planning the day that we were supposed to be traveling, I learned a lot more than by the travel, but by the planning. And that helped me to replan it better. And now we are all very ready to go and to find the right places. And one of the comments that I'm reading here, and I totally agree, when you travel with your own family and the family that is related to that travel, it is much more interesting, because you are not only going to learn of the places or what you are looking at, it's also a trigger for conversations, and it's going to trigger memories. So make sure that you always have a camera or even your phone at hand, and just with the touch of a button start recording, if not videos, at least audios of the conversations that you are going to have with your family in those places.
I see a question here from Jim, and he said, what do you do with all the cemetery pictures?
Well, I take them with the Billion Graves app. So first of all, I don't save them. They go automatically at the end of the day. They go up into the internet. They go up into the Billion Grave website, and volunteers and other people transcribe them to make it searchable, and they are searchable both in Billion Graves and in MyHeritage. Now, when I'm visiting a cemetery where I actually have people buried over there, I make sure that I take a couple of extra pictures with like the camera, and I upload them to my family tree. A headstone is actually a proof of the death of the person, and it will help you also with the information over there. You will have a birth date, a birthplace, you will have probably names of other people, and that will back up the facts that you have in your tree.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if we have any questions. A lot of great comments here about travel. It's so nice to hear them all. If you haven't yet, please tell us if you've traveled somewhere where your ancestors are, or due to your DNA test results, or to go visit somebody that you've met through MyHeritage, perhaps. Let us know the story in the comment section if you have. If you haven't yet. And if you have a question for Daniel, please let us know. I see Tina says, I enjoy Daniel's presentations. I think we all do. They're really, really interesting. He has lots and lots of experience with genealogy, family history, and definitely travel.
I like very much also Nadia's comment And I know that a lot of people plan those travels according to their DNA. So, like in my case, I didn't have to do a DNA to know that I'm an Ashkenazi Jew. But if you do a DNA test and you find out some interesting ethnicities in your DNA, why not just plan travel according to that and go to Scotland or to Greece or to any other exotic place, even if it's 1 or 2%. Why not? It feels better, right?
Definitely. We have a question here from Jim. He says, thanks for doing that with the cemetery pics. What new tools are planned for my heritage?
Oh, come on. You want me to get fired? I'm going to stop traveling if I cannot do this. No, we are always planning more, and yeah, I cannot say a lot, but and Esther knows. The good thing, I guess, or I really believe, is that lately we have dedicated a lot to the photo features, but also records and other DNA features and the tree features. Like, we are not focusing only on one branch of the genealogy. We're trying to keep and to push all of them at the same time. And my heritage is very good to come up with new things, with good things, and to help you with your research. So stay tuned.
Always lots of good things cooking. So you just have to follow our blog, blog.myheritage.com, and you'll hear about the newest updates as they come. So definitely lots of good things in the pipeline, and we can't wait to introduce them to you all.
I see a few more comments here about the DNA. Let me give you another trick. If you find a match, even if it's not like a half brother or a very close match, and this match lives in another country, why not contact the match and say, hey, listen, we're DNA matches, we're second cousin twice removed. I'm planning a trip. Do you mind if I stop by your place? You may not get a place like a couch where to drop, but at least you're going to have a friendly face and a friend or family that will be able to help you locally with your travels.
We have another question here. I saw, let's see if I can find it. Oh, here, Lori says, Daniel, how do you plan the length of your trip in order to maximize the research opportunities?
It's very easy. You plan it according to your wallet. No, seriously. Most of my trips are attached to a genealogy conference. Sometimes I also do vacation, and it will depend mostly on the holidays and the amount of days that I can squeeze in the time of the holidays and the vacation. I think that the longest I have traveled was about a month, and this was because I nailed 3 conferences in the same area. But I will not suggest you to do a genealogy trip more than a week and a half, like 15 days tops. At the end, you're going to start getting tired very fast. You're going to start mixing things. You will not remember what you saw where, and everything is going to end up being a mashup in your brain. So, like, take it easy, depending also how far are you traveling. Like, if you need to cross the pond, and if it's a little bit more expensive, so maybe yes, take the 15-20 days, and take a couple of days in the middle also to relax. If it's kind of a short or a close place, then you can do a short travel, and hopefully you will be able to go back soon.
Okay, we have a question here from James, Shernet James, who says, my daughter wants to find out more about her great, great, and great grandparents from Greece. Where do I start? We're a bit nervous about the process.
Well, I will just start with Google, find out as much as you can from the place, see the maps, see the areas, try to find probably a Facebook group from the area, a genealogy society or a genealogy that works in the place that can guide you. And probably as any place in the world, like you will have good people and not so good people. You will have good areas and not so good areas to walk around. So the more information you have, the better, and just trust your guts.
Okay, great. Just so many fantastic comments here about travel, heritage travel, and it's just so nice to see everybody, people who have taken trips in the past or who are planning new trips. It's just amazing to see. And as we said earlier, especially, if you still can't travel wherever you're located right now, there has been a pause on travel for a lot of people around the world. But that means that now is the perfect time to sit down and actually plan out that trip, because we know that the planning takes, as Daniel showed us, takes time and effort.
Yeah, and talking about time, I see a comment here from Marlene that she followed the steps of their ancestors in the route they took from Germany to Russia, from just Russia to Germany. This is also very similar to the one I did. I just did it backwards. I went back from the current time to the ancestral time, and she realized, and so did I, that a trip that probably took them years for them to make it, today with modern transportation and not having to do all the stops and all the inconvenience of the road, you can do that in days. So it's really useful to stop for a minute and to try to put yourself in your ancestor shoes to understand what they did and how they did it, and understand that there were different times and different places.
Okay, so we actually have two prizes to give away now, two giveaways. So I'm very excited to be able to do this at the end of today's session. If you haven't yet put in your comments about your travel, now's the time, very quickly before we choose. So get them in there. It's been so great to see all these comments coming in, as we heard from Daniel about heritage travel. Just so nice to see all this mixing of cultures and people finding ancestors and family members from all over the world. Really, really lovely. So Daniel, should we choose our winners today?
Oh, yeah, you can do that. I'm not taking that responsibility because I'm trying here to read all these comments, and they're really, really very interesting. I'm very happy. I suspected already, but I'm very happy to know that I'm not the only crazy guy that travels the world looking for their ancestral places.
Okay, so we'll start by giving away a MyHeritage DNA kit. Very excited to give this away. And the first prize, the MyHeritage DNA kit, will go to Bev Lawrence. And Bev wrote to us and she said, in 2016, I went to Sweden. A local genealogist added to my research and was able to find the descendants of the one sibling that had stayed in Sweden circa 1888. I visited her grave, the family home purchased in 1886 and still in use today. I met the current owners and I had lunch with my two third cousins and my son in Stockholm. We are still in contact. I loved Sweden. So that's just such a great example of someone who, just reconnected. Wow, to see the family home, that's just what an experience. Bev, that That sounds incredible. And we'd love to see photos of that family home that was purchased in 1886. That sounds like quite the experience. And to be able to kind of connect to that culture that you come from, just lovely. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we'll be in contact with you through private message to claim your MyHeritage DNA kit. And now we are giving away a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So the Complete Plan, as we say, it's the best plan that we have to offer on MyHeritage, unlimited access to historical records, to all the MyHeritage photo tools. And that prize will go to Judy Aguilar. And Judy wrote to us and she said, I've traveled to the farms and homelands of my ancestors on both my mom and my dad's side. It was a very connecting experience to walk the land where my ancestors of the 1800s and 1900s lived and survived. The feelings when visiting the old family cemeteries on the family lands was very emotional. So what a lovely story, Judy. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we'll be in touch with you as well through private message to claim your prize, your complete plan. It just goes to show also, Daniel, besides just the practicality of planning the trip and actually going, just the emotions behind it. Have you experienced that, just the emotions?
Definitely, or especially when I was with my mother at the archives in Romania, and we found out the birth certificate of my grandmother. It was so shocking that it didn't mind all what I had planned. It was only late that night that I realized that I didn't do half of the things I was planning to do at the archive just because we found that soul record. It is always very emotive, and I had the opportunity to have a family there, my mother in this case, to share it with me, but also the friends and the people you meet in the different places. Most of the times they remain your friends forever, because even if they are not related to you, they will see your reactions, and I can guarantee you it doesn't matter if it's a document or a tombstone or just simply a house in ruins. It is emotional when we know that we are in the presence of something that belonged to our ancestors. If we imagine our ancestors walking on those streets and living in those houses and being in those places, it is very, very emotive. I can like have millions of stories like that. I once traveled like 3 hours in public transportation each way just to visit a tombstone of an uncle that I never met, and was very satisfactory to be able to be there and to find it and to pay my respects. Definitely is something that everybody should try.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you for presenting this today, Daniel. I think it was just so informative for all of our viewers. Thank you to all of you out there for joining us. And we hope to see you soon at our next Facebook Live, or maybe you'll travel to visit us and we'll see you.
More than welcome, everybody. Come and visit us.
So happy traveling when you are able to. And until then, happy planning. And we hope to see you all soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.